So today we thought we would talk a little bit about Mimi, Teresa Williams Coleman's parents. And here's Beth. That's how I remember her as my grandmother, Beth Worley. And then here's Grandpa Williams. Remember him like that. And here's a picture of when they got married. That's pretty cute, huh?
Yeah, it is.
So cute. And then here's my mom. She's going to tell you a little bit about her parents. Let's see, what's today, Mom?
Is it the 25th?
September something.
Probably the 25th.
Yes, September 25th, 2025. And this is open-ended. I just asked my mom if she'd talk a little bit about her parents, maybe how they met and what education or professions they had, and just any memories she has about her parents.
Okay, I'll start with my father, Leland Alfred Williams. He had two sisters and one brother, and his oldest sister died of meningitis when she was 3 months old. Her name was Ellen Loretta Williams, and his youngest sister, Ruby Jean Williams, died when she was 1.5 years old from an infection. And then his little brother, Dale Williams, died when he was about 25 years old.
Wow.
And so actually just my father was the only child in his family that grew up and got married and had children. And his father worked on the railroad. He was a conductor, and he was very handsome and very gentlemanly. And the one memory I have of my grandfather was on Sundays, my brother and I would always go over to his house. We lived in a little tiny house in his backyard, and we'd go over to his house, and he'd hold us both on his lap and read the comics to us, the funnies that were in the
From the newspaper?
Yeah. And
Oh,
they
that's
were always
cute.
these really fun comics, and they were in color.
So it was Grandpa Williams.
It was my Grandpa Williams, and of course my father was his only living son by the time
That had posterity,
we were old enough. My father loved basketball, and he loved tennis.
And how tall was he?
He was about 6'2", and he was really good looking and really popular in high school. And even when he got out of high school, he played for a city league. It was called Troy Parisian. It was clothes cleaners. And I've got parts of his diary, and his team went to Boise and beat Boise, and I thought that was pretty cool.
In basketball?
Because in high school, because Pocatello was always sort of looked down on. Boise was the capital of the state and everything. And the jobs that he had, he worked for Idaho Candy Company and delivered candy in southern Idaho in his car. I think just in his car. I don't know if maybe he had a truck, but I think he just did it in his car. And he sold cars for a while, and he didn't like that because it was salesman against salesman. You'd sell the car, and the guy'd go home and think about it and come back and get another salesman, and he'd get credit for it. So I didn't like that very well, and so he ended up just working on the railroad like his dad did.
Was he a conductor or a brakeman?
No, he was a brakeman.
Yeah.
He was a brakeman.
How was those different?
He did, conductors, when you got the people, you get the people on the train, and you keep them happy, and he wasn't quite patient enough for that. He just wanted to go out and switch the brakes, I guess, because a couple of times he worked as a conductor, and they had the really neat uniform and the hat, but he just didn't enjoy that as much.
Yeah.
And he had a great personality. He could have worked so well with people. He would have been an amazing bishop. He was really outgoing.
Yeah.
And knew how to present himself. He loved to make things. He made a little playhouse for us when we lived in that little tiny house in the backyard of his parents. And And when I remember when we moved, they pulled it up, and I was just so intrigued with all the bugs that were under the floor of this
Yeah.
playhouse.
Oh,
You see all these beetles and all these worms.
centipedes and
And
worms
I'd never
and
seen those before, and I remember, it's funny the things you remember.
sticks. Yeah.
Yeah, and he just loved to make things, and he made, always made a doghouse for our dog. We had a really nice doghouse with little shingles on it, on the roof of it, and in his garage he would build shelves, and we'd get popcorn in little round cans, about like, you get your drinks in now, and he would paint them all blue, about this color of blue, and he'd keep his nails and his screws and his nuts and things in those.
separate jars.
Yeah, and he was very, very clean and very organized. He liked history. He really sort of wanted to go to college, but his father didn't think that college was important. Didn't encourage him at all. His mother died when he was 22.
Gosh.
She was about 47, I think.
Do you know what she died of?
She had some surgery, and I think it was probably female surgery, in Aramo. I don't know why they liked this doctor in Aramo.
Wow.
And then she came home, and about 2 weeks later, she died of an infection. And he had, it was before antibiotics.
Yeah.
And he, in his diary, he had written, he had a wonderful visit. I had a wonderful visit with my mother tonight. I think she's getting better, turning the corner. And she died the next day.
Wow.
And in his journal, it said, our house is a house of mourning. And see, he had lost, he hadn't lost his brother by then, but they'd lost the two little
sisters, yeah.
And his dad never remarried.
Wow.
But anyway, and then my father, so he was really a good builder. He loved to collect coins.
And stamps.
And he liked to collect stamps. And we got all this camping equipment one Christmas, and we were going to be campers. And we went on a camp out, and putting up the tent and cooking over the fire. And I can remember seeing my first snake on that camp out, and I remember yelling, And
How old do you think you were?
I was about 5, and Lee was about 8, and in the little cooler we had, some of the food went bad, and I don't think we ever went camping again. We just went camping once. My dad tried to hunt pheasants, but he really, he didn't really know how to do it very well, and he didn't ever get any, I can't remember him ever bringing a pheasant home. He probably only went once or twice, and he wanted to fish, and we weren't very good fishermen, so he went to the coins and the stamps. But he loved to watch basketball, and he liked to watch baseball, and he was always friendly. He'd love to work in the yard and keep the yard looking nice. And from inside the house, you could hear him talking to the neighbors, and he'd talk to everybody that walked by. Really friendly. For my mother was really quiet. My mother grew up she had 7 sisters. One died when she was just a day old. Her name was Edith. And then she had 7 sisters. And then there were 2 brothers.
John.
She had 6 sisters in a row, and then 2 brothers, and then a little sister, Joyce. And their family was really just a normal family. They had their ups and downs and things. And my grandmother and grandfather were married in the Logan Temple, and then they tried to do farming in Logan, in Aramo, and their farm was on the wrong side of the hill, and every year their crops froze for 1 or 2 years, and they couldn't live on what they made. And so then he moved to Pocatello, and he worked on the railroad too, Grandpa Worley, and worked in the yards. I'm not sure what they did, but he stayed at the railroad and worked there. My mother sort of had red hair and freckles, and she was the 4th or 5th daughter. So she had two younger sisters, but she liked to dance. She was really quiet, sort of bashful, and she went to school with my dad's brother Dale. They were the same age, and it was through Dale that my mother met my dad.
Oh wow!
And my mother, during high school, she was a good student, but probably not as good as my dad was. And she got a job at Woolworths, that was called a nickel and dime store. And I loved Woolworths because you could find anything you wanted there, whether it was toys or candy or popcorn. And they had a little animal area where you could buy goldfish, and they'd put them in a sack for you, and you'd take them home and put them in your fish bowl, and they'd die 2 weeks later.
Yep.
And we could buy these little tiny turtles at Woolworths too, and we just loved those little turtles. You know, they were so cute. And they didn't live very long either, so whatever we were supposed to do, we didn't do. So she worked at Woolworths, and she went on a date with somebody, and Dale went on a date with somebody different. Or maybe Mother was on the date with Dale, I think. And then my dad was with somebody else. They double dated one night, and they would go to a dancing place down by the river in Pocatello. The Portneuf River goes through Pocatello, and it was called something Gardens, and they would go dancing. And when Daddy met Mother on their first double date, then he started dating her. I don't know that Dale cared that much, you know, but anyway, and I think they dated for a couple of years, I think, before. But it's fun because I have that 5-year diary. My brother had the 5-year diary, but I borrowed it and just read the whole thing, and wrote down some of it, and I've got some of the writings of what he said about how she was a little bit cold at first, you know, and I'm sure she had probably, I don't know if she even dated very many people before him. And they'd go hiking. She had hiking boots, and he'd take her for car rides, and they'd go dancing. And his mother had died. I don't know if my mother ever got to meet his mother, but she had died by the time they were dating. And I think he just loved going to Mother's house because she had all those sisters.
The huge family, yeah.
Yeah, and family and
people everywhere, kids everywhere.
Meals, you know, home cooked meals, and I'm sure they loved him and treated him really well.
Yeah.
You know, and so they got married, but they were you know, dated for a year or two and were engaged for a while.
Do you know how old they were when they got married? About?
You know, in their 20s.
Early 20s.
But I would think maybe 25, 24.
Oh, okay.
You know? And my mother was a stay-at-home mom. She loved to knit. She loved to sew.
She's an amazing housemaker. Yeah.
Yeah, she really was really good at handiwork, and she made my wedding dress.
Yeah. She made our gifts for years.
Yeah, she knitted leggings
all
for you
kinds
guys,
of
and
stuff.
mittens and hats.
Yeah, scarves.
Yeah, and
Crocheted blankets.
she crocheted a dress for Dana.
She made all kinds of Christmas ornaments.
Yes. Oh, yes. Those ornaments.
Really precious ones.
Really pretty.
Yeah.
Things like that.
With this individual sequins on them and stuff.
Yeah, and I thought she was a really good cook.
Yeah.
You know, we loved the things she cooked for us. She used to make fudge. She had a really good fudge recipe, really good divinity. My dad had stomach problems, ulcers. They thought they were ulcers, and over the years, we found out after he died, that probably he just had an infection and he could have taken an antibiotic, and it wasn't ulcers at all.
Yeah, probably Helicobacter pylori, yeah.
My mother just thought it was really weird. She said, he can't eat certain things, but he can sure eat popcorn. How can he have an ulcer and eat popcorn? You know, and she, you know, and he had back trouble, so he had some health issues. But I lived in a very loving home. My mother and father were very loving and very kind, and I thought they were so rich because my dad made $1,000 a month, and they bought the house. They first bought a big house with an apartment in the basement and a fourplex in the backyard.
Wow.
And thinking this will be a really good investment because,
Yeah.
And then, after having that many people around and trying to collect the rent and having even one of them living in your house, after a while it got a little hard. So we only lived there for about 5 years, and then they sold it and we moved to a littler house. And
have some peace and quiet.
oh yeah, I think that was a real learning experience for him. But it was a lovely house, and I loved growing up there and have a lot of good memories there.
How old were you when you moved about?
I was two when we moved from that little tiny house in my folks' backyard. Yeah. And the first thing I did was I fell down the stairs. My mother said, I don't know how I fell down the stairs, but I was looking downstairs and all of a sudden I fell down the stairs. But I only did it once. And then I was in 3rd grade when we moved to the house that you knew, the one
on Custer.
On Custer.
Yeah.
And went to my first year of school was 4th grade there. My first school was Lincoln, and my second school was Jefferson. And then I went to Irving, named after Washington Irving, author, for middle school. And
then Pocatello High, right? Pocatello High School.
And then Pocatello High School, and we walked to school all the time. We didn't live far enough away to take a bus. But my parents, I just thought I had a really wonderful childhood. It was 1 mile to my grade school. 1 block. I'd walk 1 block to grade school. When we moved, then the other grade school was 1 block too, and my middle school was 1 block.
Wow.
My middle school and grade school were right next door to each other.
That's so close.
Yeah, and so.
How did you get to Pocatello High School?
Walked. It was about 10 blocks.
10 blocks.
And I'd walk until when I was a senior, I got a car. No, it was when I graduated from high school, I got a car. And then I'd drive to the library, which was about 2 blocks from.
Because you worked at the library?
I worked at the library.
And you went to ISU?
Yeah. And so I feel like I was given a perfect childhood. We had a cat and a dog almost all the time. My dad loved dogs, and he put a basketball backboard in the backyard for my brother to play, and then he put one in the driveway of our new house when we moved, and put lights up so they could play.
Oh wow,
night.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so fun.
So I have many good memories of my parents.
That's great. Thanks, Mom, for sharing that so fun.
You're welcome.
We should love you.